So for 6 weeks now I'm here every day, Gavin, so get a good bit of comfort out of it, to be honest with you. It's down here. So 6 weeks and it feels like yesterday. See the thing about that date there, the 20th of May. It's actually 4 days after my birthday. And my father, his dad, died when my dad was 35. And to start a year, I was 35 until the 16th of May there. Me and my dad made a deal to start a year that we can't have the same thing in common. We both lose our dad at 35. And on Friday the 16th of May, my dad was watching the Derry match in the house and it was all good. It was my birthday and I was actually away at the time. On a Saturday morning, his sister rang me and says my dad hasn't woke up at 8, so my birthday was the last time he was really at himself. So I took a bit of consolation in that he kept his word that we wouldn't have the same thing in common. On that Saturday I was 36, so and I believe he maybe hung on for it. I took a bit of consolation on it. Well, my dad's story started he was born on the 7th of October 1949. He was born in the wee house in Nelson Street in the bog. That's no longer there now. Nelson Street is demolished. It was demolished in the early 60s. So he was born on there, Gavin, with no electricity or running water. And he used to always say to me, "Don't tell me to tell you about the hard times, kiddo." And I think he might have been talking about Nelson Street. But as his life unfolded, there was plenty of other hard times. So he was on Nelson Street and that was demolished, so they removed the central drive in Craigan. And there were 17 in the house, in the corner house in Central Drive. My gran and granddad, there was 15 Waynes. 7 of them have now passed away. Wee Lily died when she was very young. She's my dad's sister. And my dad's the 6th brother that passed away with cancer. She died very young. Don't quote me on it, but she was about 23 when he passed away. My uncle Martin was 41, died with cancer. My uncle Jim, Jackie and Dada and my dad, they've all passed away with cancer. And obviously my dad was just the most latest one. He died 6 weeks ago. So that was it, growing up in Central Drive, and he met my man in the early 70s. And they ended up getting married in 1972, which was the same year as Bloody Sunday. And my big brother was born soon after, in 1973. But off the back of Bloody Sunday, my dad he got involved with the Republican movement. So 1972 was a big year. There was a lot happening for him. He was in the streets on Bloody Sunday and he witnessed the oppression and the injustice that was happening even before Bloody Sunday. Going back to Nelson Street where they were treated as second-class citizens. So off the back of Bloody Sunday, he got involved in the Republican movement, but it could be better jumping forward in 1976, and in my mum and father's home, the British Army raided the home, and my dad was arrested and he was remanded to Crumlin Road Jail in 1976. So he was in Crumlin Road Jail awaiting sentencing, and in 1977 he was sentenced to 10 years. And simultaneously in 76, on the 1st of March 1976, the British government removed political status. So anyone arrested for political means were now to be treated as ordinary criminals, and they would have to wear the prison uniform and do prison work and stuff. And this wasn't going to go down well with political prisoners, obviously. So he would have heard this, word would have got down to Crumlin Road, what they were up against. So he was sentenced in 77, and he was on the road to Long Kesh, and he got into Long Kesh and he was told to strip naked. Because he wouldn't wear a prison uniform. He was told to strip naked, he got a brutal beating, and he was thrown into a cell with a blanket. And he would spend the next 4 years on the blanket protest, being tortured daily, like the rest of the men there, right up until after the hunger strikes in 1981. So that was a traumatic time for his life. He had 4 years of daily beatings, 24-hour lockup. They were on a starvation diet, and the food was tampered with daily. There was sexual abuse, psychological, emotional, physical, all sorts of abuse for years. So that it was there up until after hunger strikes, and he was moved to McGilligan. And I ended up getting out in 1983. So when I went inside, my big brother was 3 and he was 10 by the time he got out, and that had a big impact on my mother and my brother at that time because my dad was gone for all them years.
And after prison, how did he get on?
Well, as I say, he got out in 1983 and he enjoyed the freedom initially. He was back with my brother and my mother, and that was probably great for him, especially after what he endured the hell inside and they were going through it outside too whilst my father was gone. So he was out and he enjoyed the freedom initially. He tried to get work, but he couldn't get work because of his background. So he started to fall into the socialising, spending a bit of time in the pub with his friends, and the socialising, the drinking started to take effect. A few years after he was released, myself and my sister were born in 88 and 89. So my father was becoming more dependent on alcohol, and it was causing too much pain in the house for my mother and us and the family. So my mother decided to leave. So the alcohol had him, so my mother left with us, and when my father was out of the house, he was actually squatting in a house in the thick of his addiction. He was squatting in a house, and he woke up one night and he woke up with a voice saying, "Go into your Uncle Hugh." And he jumped out and he says, "What was that there?" So he didn't take it on, he went back to sleep, and the same voice happened, "Go and see your Uncle Hugh." So he jumped out of bed and he thought he was either losing the plot or something he needed to follow through with. So later on, he decides to listen to the voice. He gets out of the house he was staying in, he walks to Craigan, knocks on my Uncle Hugh's house, or his Uncle Hugh's house, and Hugh's wife, Kathleen, answers and says, "Frankie, he's not here, but I know where he is." So my father actually ends up at the doors of Termabacca, and his Uncle Hugh comes out and says, "Frankie, would you come on here and spend the weekend on here?" Hugh was actually working on a Cursil spiritual retreat going on in Termabacca. It's like an encounter with Christ. So Hugh was in there working, and my dad had nowhere else to go, so he says, "I'll get a couple of days, a bed to stay for a few days, and I'll probably get fed. I don't have much else going on, so I'll go on." So he went in there and spent the weekend there. And his first morning he went down and a couple of guys befriended him and started talking to him, and he recognised a few guys from around Craigan and stuff. And the boy fed him breakfast, sat breakfast in front of him, and he says it was the first time he felt love in a long time, and he couldn't believe it. Beautiful views up here. So this is Termabacca. This is where I was telling you where my father came and done the retreat. And this place, this monastery, it's a Carmelite retreat centre. And this place, I believe, this is where the crossroads happened with my father. My father entered here and he arrived up here out of that squat house he was staying in. This was the crossroads of his life, I believe. So he ended up on here, and what it gave him was, it made him look at himself deeply. Made him look at his relationship with himself, his relationship with ours, and his relationship with God. So although this is only a building, this is where that wee seed of faith was planted on him, and this was the crossroads, and this is where he started to turn the corner in his recovery and his struggles. So he came out of here, and these buildings don't solve all your problems, but something was planted on him that turned the course of his life. Just as we're talking about my father, this is station 9. Jesus falls for the 3rd time, and my dad would have spoke to this about me many times. Our Lord Jesus, after being whipped within an inch of his life, a crown slapped on his head, a crown of thorns, he had to carry his cross, and he fell 3 times in station 9. The 3rd time he fell, but he got up again, and it's perseverance. He got up again to go and get crucified for our brokenness and our sins, and my father very much believed this. So station 9 always stands out. It's the gift of perseverance that my mother and father had to go through their struggles, and it's just a message for everyone, just that no matter how tough it gets, we just need to get back up and keep going. So station 9 is an important one, especially in my father's life.
How much will Frankie be missed?
I couldn't put it into words on camera, to be honest with you. It took me an hour to try and think about it, but what I would say was my mother's lost her soulmate to 53 years. That's seeing the pain that she's going through. It's desperate, but it'll be a void that can never be filled. And she says they're away, and she says, I'm proud of you for being strong through all this, but he's a great inspiration. But she doesn't understand that we get our inspiration from her and from my father through what they've been through in life. So my mother and father are my greatest inspiration. But as far as being missed, he'll be missed as a friend, a colleague, a granddad, a brother, a comrade. That song goes, he was more than just a father, he was a teacher and he was my best friend, and that's true. And he was much more than that. He was a counsellor, he was a motivator, he was a biggest support. He had your back no matter what. So he left the weekend and he kept going back every week to the friendship nights, and he kept meeting up with the lads that he met on the weekend, and these lads ended up being friends with him right up until he passed away. So he kept going back, but my mother heard he was getting on very good. So they reconnected and he was back. So the family was back together. My dad was getting on good, which would have been great at the time. And as the months went on, he started to wonder again. And again, the addiction, when you're in a thick of addiction, you know the pain was too much. And this time, my mother, it was out for good this time. And at that point, he spent 4 or 5 years out of our home, caught up in his addiction. And I honestly don't blame him for what he went through and the cash and stuff. But so, the 4 or 5 years he was out, he still met up with the lads now and again. And one thing he did do, he went to the Walk the Knock. It's a pilgrimage, and he'd done that 10 times in total. But every year through the 4 or 5 years he was out, he'd done the Walk the Knock, and he decided to do it sober every year. So he stayed sober every year for that.
I'm doing this one for you, friend, Frankie. I love you and I miss you.
That's us, day one of the Walk the Knock, 2025. We'll be 4.5 hours on here already feeling it, but the big man, that was how many years ago doing it, playing the guitar. Day 3. And then he heard about Sister Bridge McKenna talk that was happening in the Holy Family. So he was excited to go to the Sister Bridge talk because it's known that she has the gift of healing. So he went to this talk to try and get a bit of healing. And he left bitterly disappointed. He didn't feel anything, he didn't get no healing, and he didn't see any healing being done there. So he left and he went up his flat where he had at the time. He had a wee flat, and he threw her book on the ground, and his head was probably all over the place. And then the next day, my mother, she needed us watched, so she rang him and says, I need you to watch the wines, I have to work. So he says, that's grand, and she went up the house, and he says they could sense that she was angry about something. She wasn't happy with something, and he couldn't look at her in the eye. And he was wandering around his eyes, and he says the world slowed down. He says the entire world slowed down. He looked at the Sister Bridge book, and he was face up looking at him. And he looked at my mother, and he says, I'm sorry, Rosie. And when he says, I'm sorry, Rosie, their marriage was restored instantly. It was back in our family home, right up until 6 weeks ago, until I passed away. So that wee seed that was planted in him with faith, that was the healing he needed. He stuck with it and persevered, and that moment his marriage was restored. Just prior to that, he actually was in Uri, so he got sober in Uri, and then that's one thing. He spent whatever many weeks up in Uri, and now his marriage is restored with my ma after that wee moment they had. So he's back in our family home, and he does a course on addiction studies, a 10-week course, and it really helped him understand the addiction and all that kind of stuff with a drink. So he started to understand himself more. He started to dig in, Gavin, and do the work on himself and understand where all this trauma was coming from. So that was him sober, and he done his wee course. And in 1997, the Northlands Centre were looking for volunteers. So we volunteered in the Northlands Centre, obviously free, obviously he was doing the work voluntary. and they created a post. So he done an addiction diploma and they created a post. So he took the post as an addiction counsellor, and he probably spent a good 25 years there, helping hundreds, if not thousands of people. It's been 25 years since I've been on here. If it wasn't for counselling, I didn't see my dad in his office. It's been 25 years since I've been in this office here, and I wasn't on here to get recovery. I was in here seeing my dad. It's my dad's office, so I was in here 25 years ago, seeing him, and I could just hear him in here. There's a lot of souls dug out and helped in here, a lot of lives changed in this room. When my dad was here, and probably still going to this day, I could just picture him saying, "Tell me how you feel there, kid." Just realising my dad's been counselling me my whole life without me even knowing. I can nearly visualise him when I'm sitting here looking around. I can nearly visualise him talking to people. It's a massive. My heart's actually pumping behind here. And it didn't matter, even though my dad's background, where he came from, it didn't matter once you walk through these doors. It didn't matter about religion or any of that stuff, no matter what background you came from. My dad just wanted to help and get to the bottom of the problems and change people's lives.
So I was in here in 2008 for treatment. I was in here for 6 weeks. We come in here during the 6 weeks and Frankie would counsel us. He would sit there and I would sit there. And then I was in for 2 years after, getting the aftercare and coming in and seeing him and all. It was like there's no difference then that it is now in here. It's just sad he's no longer here and he can't give people help anymore, but they're out living their lives now. We're sober because of Frankie sitting there, and as Oren says, his catchphrase was, "What's that feeling there?" If you were quiet for a wee minute, he'd say, "What's that feeling there?" as if you were hiding something from him, but he wouldn't let you away with it, and he wouldn't let you away by saying, "How are you, Gavin?" "Oh, I'm grand, Frankie." Don't tell Frankie you're grand, because that means nothing. That's just, what does that mean? It means nothing. He wouldn't let you away with that either. He wouldn't suffer fools gladly, but I had many special conversations in here. It helped me a lot, and I'll never forget him, to be honest.
So as I say about the soul digging that happened in this room, and I've actually felt it, Gavin, through the last couple of weeks. People have been texting me and telling me the impact that my father has actually had in their life. It all happened in this room, so it's beautiful stuff to hear. I'll read a few of them out for you. "Your daddy was my counsellor in the Northlands 11 years ago. We laughed, cried and became friends. He told me he was going to get me in behind the office desk before he retired, and he did. I volunteered for a few years, then worked in it over COVID. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. 11 years later, I'm still sober and know that to the help of your father. I will never forget him for helping me get my life back. God bless him, he is one of a kind." There's another one here that touches me so deep. "Hello, Oren. I met your father 21 years ago in the Northlands Centre. I was very sick and strong-willed, stubborn and proud woman when we met. I had 2 small children at the time of going into treatment. Your father was my counsellor. He was the only man for the job. He was a stubborn and a strong-willed, but also kind and patient. When I entered the Northlands, I was there to escape. Your father taught me that I wasn't a bad person. He taught me how to sit in silence. He taught me so much. My 3 children are all doing very well in life. None of their lives would have been possible without your father and mine. I am one of many, many people who listened to him, took some heavy hits from him too. He wasn't soft, but he knew it was life or death. He would say, 'I don't want to walk behind another coffin,' and that hit home. I was so very fond of him, and I would not have, nor would my children have the life that we have without God putting your father in my path in life. I'm 21 years clean and sober, and your dad was the man. Just powerful.
Within me training, he used to have it must have sat there, just now, something tells me it sat there, it was like a wee locker, something not dissimilar to this black one, only it was like a bedside locker. And I mind having a conversation one day. I was probably reflecting on, I don't even know what the conversation was about, but I was reflecting on why am I doing this, what am I doing this for, the difficulty in it, all of that stuff, the firefighting, not constantly being met with resistance, but the biggest percentage of the time you're met with resistance in this work. I don't know where our conversation led to now, but the thing, and all of mine was reaching over and opening the door. The doors about this, maybe about this depth, and it was like a jack in the box or an accordion is the only way I can describe it. As the door opened, the cards sort of riz up out of it. There's cards and mass cards and stuff like that, and it sort of sprung up, and it come up above the door, and then so my mind would like to tell me that it was just a big pile of stuff, but the cards come up and they riz above the rim of the drawer up to a certain height, and he just touched it and he says, you see, if I have one person sober for every mass card I have in that drawer, he says, I'll die feeling like I've been a successful man. I don't think he ever, I don't know if he did or he didn't. It's difficult to talk without getting emotional about it, but I don't think he knows, in me in particular, and I will be fairly sure that I am not the only person that will say the same thing as this, but I don't think he realises the impact that he had. He had the most subtle way of letting you see the depth of where you're taking yourself to. We can blame the world, we can blame this, we can blame that, and yes, our life has an impact on us, it absolutely does, but it's our own choices, and he's very good at never seen him cross, never seen him raise his voice, never seen him agitated, never seen him angry.
Another wee consolation too on them points is my sister got married last year on the 23rd of May 2024, and my dad walked her up the aisle the 23rd of May 2025 in the same chapel. She walked him back down the aisle. They took him to his resting place, so it was 1 year to the day, and we take great consolation in that too.
It's just so funny, isn't it, that exactly a year later we buried him and I walked him down the aisle in his coffin. And he's left that legacy for us, and we'll never let my daddy's memory die, but it's just so nice to know that there's other families out there that'll keep his memory alive too, push through his struggles, and it gives us then the strength every day to go on. And Mick, I'm proud because he made us so proud up to the very end.
Over the mountains we'll walk on together to know all the wonders He's given to me. I want to go and meet Him there, to lay myself down in His love. The Lord is my shepherd, and I want to follow wherever He leads me, wherever He goes, wherever He leads me, wherever He goes.
There was kind of wee quirky things about him, like he always had a burgundy diary. Like, and you get a blue one or a green one or a black one. Frankie always had a burgundy one, right?
That's it.
And it's always under the arm, right? So he's up here in his office, writing his notes or whatever. If he needs to go down into the front office, the diary's under his arm, right? And I used to say to him, where you going with the diary? You always have that diary under your arm. He says, it always looks like you're doing something then. Do you know what I mean? No, that's how can I carry on. That's how can I carry on.
I remember the Brooklyn area.
Oh, stop. And then for years, your dad didn't drive till later in life, fella.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? And then they get the wee car.
Wee red one.
You get the wee red Fiesta, right? It was parked out there. And he'd have been away at lunchtime. Over to the house for the lunch. Do you know what I mean? Over to the house for the lunch and then back over again.
Over 12 jam sandwiches and back.
And I think, and I didn't know this until, I think it might have been your mum was telling me, that he used to, because he was getting more tired before he retired, he used to go over and have a wee sleep at lunchtime.
Every day.
A wee sleep at lunchtime.
Every day.
And some of that would have been about him making sure whoever he was seeing that afternoon,
He was a wee bit charged.
aye, that he wasn't too tired.
He took great pride in that job, like. I knew it firsthand, like. He loved it.
He did, sir. He really did. And I guess that was just, he knew again about, like, what it was like to be drinking and what he lost in his life, and he kind of desperately wanted everybody to have recovery the way he had it, and it was important to him that he gave everything to people in order to help them, you know, as much as he could. And but again, he was straight down the line with people when he was here too, you know what I mean? He kind of, when it was difficult to tell people the truth, Frankie still would have told you the truth. Do you know what I mean? But he had a way of doing it. And funny, we were just chatting about this the last day, me and somebody else in here. He had a way of doing it that he never did it in a way that was that came across judgmental. He kind of told you the truth, and he told people things that maybe they didn't like to hear, didn't want to hear, but he always told it from a place of compassion. You know, that's the kind of word that I would use. He's a quite compassionate man in terms of his work. You know, and while serious about his work, but at the same time had an unbelievable ability to have banter in amongst it. Do you know what I mean? That there would have been a kind of a dark humour to him too. Like, do you know what I mean? That in the right moments at the right time with the right people around, he kind of showed it to you, but also kind of very professional.
Hoping that his father will accept him, and he goes back to his father, expecting the worst, and his father welcomes him in open arms, and runs a feast that the son's returned. And the other son wasn't happy, but the message behind it is, no matter how far we drift, God the Father is always waiting for us to come and run back to him. He's standing with his arms open, and the forgiveness is always there. It's just up to us to make the choice to come back to the Father. So my dad spoke about that many times to me, and because my dad was the prodigal son, I'm the prodigal son, we're all prodigal sons. We all drift in life, and the message is coming back. God the Father's lying like that waiting for us to come running back on these arms. So it's a good one for forgiveness. It's very important in my dad's life and everyone's life, to be honest. No matter how far we drift, we can always come back.
One of the talks here, the forgiveness talk, like Frankie was the one that did that. You know what I mean? No, like when he was here, that was his talk, and it was his talk for a specific reason, and a lot of that was to do with his faith. You know, and whilst it was while strong and it was while important in his life, he never forced it on anybody in here either.
Yeah.
You know, he just kind of talked out of that place in himself, and I think people just felt, you just knew that this was a man that was in solid ground.
Yeah.
He was in good ground in his recovery and his life, and whilst life was while simple, it was solid. Yeah. You know, he's a solid kind of character.
Yeah.
They actually sent him to get the camera, and he got the camera. He sort of knew himself what they seen that day. That we were thinking, oh my God, it could be cancer. So we were waiting the results, and we have the camera. And I was in Edinburgh at the time, and I was heading home that morning, and I got a phone call of his sister. They say it's confirmed cancer, and to be honest, straight away, just the pain. I was just thinking, oh my God, we'll lose my dad, because I knew cancer's in our family. He's lost 5 years blood with it, so immediately it turned me upside down. I just withdrew into myself for a while. So we got home and we tried to get through the next few weeks and stuff, and they were going to operate on him. They're saying the cancer's in the bowel, so we can do the operation. In worst case, she might have the stoma bag or whatever. So we're thinking, happy days, this could be hopeful. We'll take anything we can get here now. They get you through it. So they're preparing us a date set for the operation and stuff. And we knew it was up against it because they had COPD and angina on the heart and stuff. So we knew it was going to be a tough operation. And then as it went on, then the days went on, they told us that they couldn't operate on him. Says that they would probably end up killing him within a few weeks, risking infection and stuff. Or if it didn't kill him because of his getting tested for Alzheimer's, it could leave him permanently not the same man just. So the doctor told him they would take the chance with living your life without the operation. You might get longer at it, but they were going to hand him over to the hospice care. So that was tough. It was tough for my daddy as well because he was prepared for the operation too. And for us to hear that, I sort of built myself up that he was going to have the operation and survive it. And as time went on, the hospitals were looking after him, and we were told that they'd probably have months to live. So that was it. But the hospitals were going to take care of him, and they sorted all his meds out. And he was in the hospital for 10 days around January, and they sorted his meds for his Alzheimer's and stuff. It wasn't too bad anyway, but they sorted his meds for his pain and Alzheimer's, and they were angels. He didn't want to leave after 10 days. He was dancing with the nurses and all sorts of crack, the crack then. And his positivity throughout the whole thing was inspirational. I say my dad was my hero for the life he had, but a man once told me, he says, my dad taught me how to live, but he also taught me how to die. What are you doing? And the peace we felt in that room, we were praying with him. We got him on his last rites, the priest was on. I was able to pray with him for hours and hours, Gavin, and it's only because of the faith that he's passed on to me and the example he showed me. Otherwise I would have been in complete despair. So I know the family, we say it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blessing the way we got to watch him pass away. So at the wake, at the funeral, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. The many people came up to me and says, we were standing at the coffin, people were kissing him saying, thank you for saving my life. And that had deep to us as a family. It had deep knowing my dad was my hero, but this was a new level here. I didn't understand the people he helped, especially coming through his own pain. In my eyes, it's a miracle. I wrote this wee poem for my father when I passed away, and I read it here every day, to be honest. I struggle to accept the truth, that I won't hear your voice again. In the end, it all happened so fast. Nothing is ever compared to this pain. I'm more afraid as each day goes past. Can't afford to lose our connection. I would give the rest of my days for one more minute of your affection. Hello kiddo, how was work today? You would say when I came to visit. If I'd only bloody known just how much I would miss it. People say time is a healer, and that someday it will feel lighter. Can't get those final days out of my mind. My hero, what a fighter. You showed me how to be a man, to play the guitar and play some pull. When I'd often get it wrong in life, your words of wisdom were my greatest tool. Lily, Rhiannon, Kaelin and Maya, they'll miss their granda along with Micheál and Dean. Who will we look up to now, Dad? For so long we were one big team. The blade has lost her soulmate of 53 years. How will she get over it? I have no notion. You and her made a promise that you'd run along the beach in slow motion. I miss your voice, your smile and your touch, and seeing you dressed in red and white, just to play one more game of snooker. The small things with you made my life so bright. You're my hero for the time you spent in the blanket protest, afterwards dealing with your own struggle and affliction. Nothing makes me prouder. In the Northlands you helped hundreds through their addiction. I can't take my mind away from those final minutes in the hospice praying with you. Only 3 days later in Derry, at half-mast the tricolour flew. One thing I can tell you, old boy, is I'll shout your name nice and loud. My aim in life has never changed. The biggest goal is to make you proud. Daddy, I wish someone had warned me that your death would cause so much pain. A massive hole pierced through your heart. Rest easy, my best friend. Can't wait to see you again.